So we're going to turn to our first aliyah for this Yom Kippur morning. We are reading from the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, the traditional Yom Kippur morning reading. The Torah reading is taken from Leviticus chapter 16. We begin at Pasuk, verse number 1. These verses are in your Maksor. They begin on page 544 at the top of the page where it says first aliyah.
Amazing.
So these first few verses in Torah remind us of the terrible death of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu. And notwithstanding the volume of Talmud pages that try to explain why Nadav and Avihu were killed, their deaths remain tragic, inexplicable, and leave us grasping for ways to try and make sense of this story for ourselves. As we discussed last night, there is sadly no shortage of inexplicable death in our world at this moment. The untimely loss of life of innocent people in Israel and Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in Lebanon truly make our head spin. Each one of us, I am sure, has been thinking about the yahrzeit of October 7th this past Monday, and of the war, the year-plus-long war that has followed. Each of us sitting here this morning had our own thoughts, our own feeling, our own opinion about all that had taken place since October 7th, both in Israel and Palestine and in the United States. And we need, as a congregation, as a community, we need to figure out how we conduct ourselves and how we go forward in community. To be specific, I know that there are Kerem Shalom members who find themselves and feel themselves leaning to the right when it comes to Israel, Palestine, and that there are members of Kerem Shalom who find themselves leaning to the left when it comes to Israel and Palestine. And I know that there are many of us who feel overwhelmed, quite honestly, by all of our contradictory and conflicting feelings that perhaps seem to change almost minute by minute. And many of us feel completely stuck in the middle and aren't sure exactly what to think or feel at all. And I know for a fact that these multiple perspectives exist in this room because many of you have spoken with me about them. I have been asked so many times over this past year if Kerem Shalom is a pro-Israel synagogue or a Zionist community. And I have been asked so many times over this past year if Kerem Shalom is truly a progressive community and if we are truly left-wing. And I want to say as clearly as I can on the holiest day of the year that I hear, as a deaf guy, I hear the depth of pain and of struggle and of challenge in all of these questions. And I also want to say as clearly as I absolutely possibly can that Kerem Shalom is your Jewish home. We are absolutely a community that can hold differences and diversity, differences of person, differences of opinion, and differences of perspective. The question of whether Kerem Shalom identifies as a left-leaning congregation or a right-leaning congregation or a center-left congregation or a center-right congregation truly has no bearing on global politics and has no bearing on the event in Israel and Palestine. What matters most at this moment, I believe, is the narrative, the story that we will tell ourselves about ourselves and how we as a congregation met this moment. The narrative that we create at this moment, the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves will have a far greater impact on our congregation, on our community, on our psycho-spiritual selves, and on our very lives. I spoke on Rosh Hashanah about origin stories and core values. When I am not sure what to think or feel or do, I ask myself, what value am I living out in the world at this moment? What value am I leading with? And what I value at this moment is my ability to be in community and to remain in community with others who appreciate the humanity of all those around me, who appreciate and acknowledge Ahavat Yisrael, love, care, and concern for Jewish people. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, and love, care, and concern for all who dwell on earth. What I value is my ability to be in community with others who are constantly working on themselves and working to develop the skill of being able to listen with empathy to someone they may not agree with. You have all heard me say many, many times over the years that my rabbinate is defined by building, supporting, and sustaining a community where different and diversity are embraced, in part because if you belong to a synagogue where everyone looks like you, where everyone is the same racial background as you, if everyone comes from the same socioeconomic background as you, has the same abilities as you, the same Jewish education as you, the same sexual orientation as you, the same gender identity or non-binary identity as you, then you don't belong to a synagogue. You don't belong to a true spiritual faith community. You belong, in that case, potentially what is a private country club. If Kerem Shalom, if our synagogue does not reflect the wide spectrum of humanity as God had created us, then we are not a Kehillah Kedosha, a sacred community. So I'm going to do something brand new for myself this year. I'm going to expand all the categories that I just shared with you to include different perspectives on Eretz, Yisrael, and Palestine. If everybody at Kerem Shalom holds the same view, whether it's a left-wing view or a right-wing view, we do ourselves a massive disservice. We sell ourselves short. As the Mishnah teaches us, who is wise? The answer is one who learns from all people. We need to be able to listen to each other. We need to be able to learn from each other. And if we cannot do this, then we run the risk of reinforcing the false narrative of the social media culture in this country that claims that human beings can only exist in their own small echo chamber where everybody reinforces what everybody else says and thinks and believes. And that is not my vision for our community. Kerem Shalom has always been, and as long as I am your rabbi, will always be a home for all of us. The issues before us are devastating. Absolutely, heartbreakingly, gut-wrenchingly devastating. And quite honestly, as I stand here and share these words with you, I have to admit that the categories of left and right and center left and center right are completely losing all meaning for me. The challenges that we face as human beings in the Middle East are indeed highly complex and nuanced. And the truth is, we're all scared. I met with a Kerem Shalom member over the past summer, a couple of months ago, who said to me that he believed that Jews around the world are terrified. I think he's right. I think we are all pretty terrified. And the stakes in front of us at this moment couldn't be any higher. When it comes to Israel and Palestine, first and foremost, I reject zero-sum thinking. I reject the notion out there that we have to pick a side or that there are sides to pick. I reject the notion that supporting Jews and Israelis somehow means that I don't care about innocent Palestinian lives, or that caring about Palestinian lives somehow means that I don't care about the hostages who are still in prison, who are still being held hostage, and Jews and Israelis. The human heart that I have, that each of us has, is big enough to care about more than one group of people at a time. It is possible to be frightened, to be terrified, and to still care about all human beings. So on that note, this first Aliyah, this Yom Kippur morning, it's going to be for anyone who is willing to make a commitment to remaining in community here at Kerem Shalom with me, understanding that we aren't all always going to agree. We aren't all always going to feel the same way about what is taking place on the global scale at all times. This Aliyah will be for anyone who is willing to make a commitment to developing their own ability to listen with empathy to someone they may not fully agree with, and maybe, you don't have to do this part, but maybe extend them the benefit of the doubt. Because at the end of the day, my friend, we are so much stronger when we are together. And whatever happens in Israel and Palestine, or here in the United States for that matter, we are all in this boat together. And my hope is that over the course of the year, whatever may come, that the memory of standing up in this moment will be a source of strength for you, a source of courage for you, a source of hope for you as you reflect on and remember your commitment to remaining in community, and know that remaining in community will ultimately give you and Kerem Shalom the blessing, the gift of life itself.